I'm back again with another study. So the next one I want to bring up is Tamar. So I just did a video on Tamar, and I thought that this is where we were going to start here, and God just took it away. And I see even now while I'm walking through it that God took it somewhere else, and I'm so grateful to that. Here, as we talked about before, Tamar's half brother Amnon went ill, frustrated because he had to have her, and he forced himself on her, and he deceived her, forced himself on her, and then she ran to her brother's house because now she's no longer a virgin. Again, let's look at covering. There is a covering that we all know biologically, for the most part, that most women have that is connected to their virginity, and that is the hymen. And so now we have a brother who broke her covering, removed her covering, violently took away her covering, and then kicked her out of the house. And so if we're thinking housing, shelter as covering, he removed that, and she went to another brother, and her brother Absalom said, "Do not force me." Rent her clothes. So, and Tamar. So now let's talk about covering again. We're talking about clothes now. Let's go back to clothes. And Tamar put ashes on her head, covering, and rent her garment of diverse colors that was on her, covering, and laid her hand on her head, covering, and went on crying. And Absalom, her brother, said to her, "Has Amnon your brother been with you? Hold your peace, my sister. He is your brother. Regard not this thing." So Tamar remained desolate in her brother's house, covering. And so here we have another man who is a brother who was her cover. She covered herself with ashes. She covered her, she rent the clothes. Rent means to rip. She rent the clothes that covered her, and then she got to her brother who would replace the covering for her. And so I'm hoping, even for our young girls that might be listening to this, that you might start hearing the importance of a covering. It's not about trying to control you. It's about covering you, because like Amnon, like Jephthah, like the snake, there are people, there are entities, there are spirits that don't value your covering. They don't even value you. So the best thing that they can do is remove your hedge of protection. We hear this in Job. When when Satan is talking to God and saying, "Let me touch him," and oh no, no, God says, "Have you tried? Have you tried my servant Job?" And Satan says, "Please, I can't touch him. You have a hedge of protection over him. You cover him," right? There's something about the covering that protects your vulnerabilities. And even if your vulnerabilities is your actual nudity, if your vulnerability is the doorway to your life force, or your womb space, or your soil space, it is something of value that, in order for it to be deemed protected, it has to be covered. And so Absalom covered his sister.